Now listen, this story right here? It feels like something straight out of a twisted reality show, except it is real life. Because no one, and I mean no one, expected that Dr. Wendy O, the self-proclaimed real intellectual of the Real Housewives, would be standing in front of flashing cameras for this. A woman who spent years lecturing everyone about integrity, education, and real accomplishments, now has her mugshot plastered all over social media. And guess what? She is not alone. Her husband, Happy Eddie, is right there beside her. And child, the internet is not letting them breathe. 16 criminal charges. 7 felonies. Federal accusations of insurance fraud. The timeline of events reads like a Netflix crime documentary. And the most jaw-dropping part? The smiles in those mugshots. Like they were posing for a photo shoot instead of a felony arrest. And you already know who is somewhere sipping tea and watching the chaos unfold, Keiarna Stewart. Yes, the same Keiarna who had been calling Wendy out for years, warning everyone that perfect image was nothing but a performance. Now, she is practically trending for saying, "I told you so." Rumor has it, she might even be the one who tipped the feds off. This scandal is like karma on high volume. Because let us not forget, Wendy made a brand out of looking down on other women. She mocked their hustle, their businesses, their lifestyles. And now, the same woman with 4 degrees and a PhD is being accused of the kind of foolishness that no diploma can defend. The whole thing started like a bad script, April last year, right after the couple returned from their lavish Jamaican vacation. They claimed their Maryland mansion had been ransacked. Stolen designer handbags, missing jewelry, chaos everywhere. They filed a report, signed insurance claims worth $450,000, and played the victims. But the detectives? They were not buying it. Because when they walked into that house, something did not add up. Only one bedroom looked robbed, while the rest of the mansion looked like a real estate listing photo. The supposed entry point was a window above a toilet, except the toilet lid was still perfectly closed, spotless, no footprints, no debris. Like a scene staged by amateurs. And here is where it gets wild. Their ADT and Ring systems, both active, both monitored, showed zero motion inside the house during their entire vacation. No forced entry, no break-in, nothing. The only activity was a few Amazon deliveries that they themselves confirmed receiving. Police started connecting dots, and the picture got darker. Turns out, several of the stolen items had been returned to stores years ago, some as far back as 2018. And if that was not enough, fans later dug up red carpet photos showing Wendy wearing the same jewelry she reported missing. And just when you thought it could not get any more embarrassing, investigators raided their home and found 15 of the so-called stolen items sitting right there, untouched, like trophies of deceit. The whole case unraveled like a social media meltdown in slow motion. Every new update was a plot twist, every leaked document another punchline. It was not just about insurance fraud anymore, it was about the fall of a woman who built her empire on superiority, only to drown in her own arrogance. Now, the internet is divided. Some say Wendy is innocent, a victim of hate and envy. Others say this is exactly what happens when your ego becomes your downfall. Either way, one thing is clear, Dr. Wendy O's real reputation just turned really scandalous. And honestly? The way this story is playing out, it is not just a headline. It is a lesson. Let me tell you something, the deeper this story went, the darker it became. What started as a simple burglary turned into one of the most mind-blowing scandals reality TV has ever seen. Because when detectives started knocking on doors, the neighbors had a very different story to tell. Not a single person heard so much as a creak that night. No shattered glass, no car speeding away, not even a bark from the neighborhood dogs. One woman swore she saw Wendy the very next morning, casually walking her dog, smiling, laughing, greeting another resident like she did not just claim her house had been burglarized. That was the first red flag. Because when you have just been robbed, your world is supposed to collapse. But Wendy? She looked untouched. Calm. Almost proud. Like a woman performing for a role she had already rehearsed 100 times. And then came the receipts. Literally. Investigators got hold of transaction records from the luxury boutiques Wendy and Eddie loved to flaunt online, Chanel, Cartier, Gucci, you name it. And what they uncovered was straight out of a scammer's playbook. Those stolen designer items? Returned. Exchanged. Some even sold online under fake names. Every description in their insurance claim matched a returned product down to the last detail, from the limited edition black Chanel flat bag with gold hardware to the Cartier diamond love bracelet. And when police ran the serial numbers, boom, every single one had already been refunded long before this so-called burglary ever happened. The motive started to take shape, and it was ugly. Beneath the filters, the hashtags, and the hashtag boss couple captions, Wendy and her husband were drowning in debt. Their reality TV image, the lavish trips, the designer closets, the cars, it was all built on borrowed money. Behind closed doors, they were juggling overdue credit cards, unpaid loans, and failed business ventures. The pressure to look rich had pushed them into a corner. And in that corner, they decided to build a lie big enough to live in, one insurance claim away from a financial reset. But as fate would have it, their own vanity became their downfall. Because while Wendy was out there crying victim, her Instagram was telling the truth. Months after the burglary, she posted photos wearing the same diamond ring she had claimed was stolen. One picture showed her at a charity gala, champagne in hand, the ring catching the light perfectly. Another photo from a friend's birthday dinner showed the same sparkle, the same evidence she thought no one would ever notice. But this is the internet, people notice everything. Within hours of her arrest, TikTok detectives, Reddit threads, and Twitter sleuths turned her entire online life into a crime scene. Then it got worse. Because once the story went public, other people started talking. Former neighbors, acquaintances, even an old friend, came forward with stories that painted a chilling picture. One said Wendy once filed a claim for a stolen bicycle that mysteriously reappeared weeks later in her garage. Another remembered her bragging that insurance will pay if you play it right. Suddenly, it was not just one fake claim. It was a pattern, a habit, a career of deceit hiding in plain sight. And when police finally raided their home, it was like stepping into a museum of lies. 15 of the stolen luxury items sat neatly displayed in their walk-in closet. Tags still attached. Dust-free. Organized by color. A small velvet box on Wendy's dresser held the missing jewelry, glittering proof of their hypocrisy. And tucked away in the attic, inside boxes labeled Christmas decorations, officers found an unopened safe filled with cash, watches, and insurance documents from past payouts. It was not just fraud. It was an operation. When confronted, the facade cracked. Wendy broke down, sobbing, insisting it was all her husband's plan. Eddie, on the other hand, blamed the insurance company for targeting them. But the evidence, the emails, the texts, the saved drafts discussing how to file the claim strategically, told another story. This was not a misunderstanding. This was premeditated manipulation. And the public? They showed no mercy. The same internet that once hyped her up as a powerhouse woman now dragged her down with hashtags like #FraudQueen and #DegreeInDeception. Sponsors dropped her overnight. Charities cut ties. Brands deleted their posts. Within days, Dr. Wendy O, once a symbol of intelligence and success, became a cautionary tale about greed, ego, and the dark side of image culture. Because in the end, this was never about money. It was about validation. About keeping up appearances, no matter the cost. But the truth? The truth always catches up. And when it does, it is not glamorous. It is devastating. Just when everyone thought the story had reached its peak, it twisted again. And this time, it got darker. Because as the couple waited for trial, reporters started digging. And what they found about Wendy's husband? Chilling. Turns out, this was not his first rodeo. For years, he had been quietly filing exaggerated claims in his business dealings, stolen equipment that was never stolen, damaged assets that were perfectly fine, even fake workplace injuries. It was a long trail of deception hidden under charm and confidence. Former colleagues described him as magnetic, but manipulative, a man who could twist any story until it sounded like the truth. And Wendy? She either got caught in his web, or maybe, just maybe, she helped him spin it. Their lawyer tried to sell a sob story to the court, saying they were under immense financial pressure, that this was a desperate mistake by a struggling family. But the prosecutors did not buy a single word. They called it what it was, premeditated fraud. The kind that takes planning, teamwork, and audacity. The insurance company demanded full restitution, and when the numbers were tallied, the damages were over $500,000. Their accounts were frozen. Their cars repossessed. Their homes sealed as evidence. Overnight, their glamorous empire of selfies and designer dreams collapsed into dust. And that is when the internet truly erupted. Because this scandal was not just about crime, it was about the mirror it held up to society. Everyone wanted to know, how far will people go to look successful? Wendy had built her entire identity around the illusion of having it all. The vacations, the jewelry, the speeches about hard work and education, every photo online was a curated fantasy. But behind that shine was desperation, the ugly truth of what happens when your image becomes your entire worth. When the trial finally began, it felt like a movie premiere gone wrong. Cameras lined the courthouse steps. Reporters whispered updates in real time. And when Wendy and her husband walked in, heads down, dressed in plain black, the silence was deafening. Gone were the luxury outfits, the designer heels. What faced the court that day were two people stripped of their armor, exposed, fragile, and terrified. The prosecution came prepared. They laid everything out: the receipts, the photographs, the transaction logs, the emails planning the fraud. Each exhibit was another piece of the puzzle, another lie exposed. When they displayed the photo of Wendy wearing the so-called stolen ring, she broke down in tears. But even that felt hollow. The judge called their actions a brazen, deliberate attempt to exploit the system, his voice cold and unimpressed. It did not take the jury long. Guilty, on all major counts. Fraud. False reporting. Conspiracy. Their sentence was heavy, but it was nothing compared to what they lost. The world they built on deceit had finally turned on them. And here is the poetic irony of it all: the very lifestyle they pretended to have became the evidence that destroyed them. Every Instagram post, every public brag, every filtered lie, it all turned into a breadcrumb trail straight to the truth. In trying to look perfect, they left a perfect trail of proof. Their downfall became a social media morality play, a warning about the price of illusion. Because when you build your reputation on performance, the day will come when the curtain falls. And when it does not just expose the lie, it exposes you. But wait, the story did not end there. After their arrest, both were released on a $50,000 bail, trying to control the narrative. They issued a perfectly worded statement through their PR team: Dr. Wendy Osefo and her husband Edward Osefo are back home safely with their family and in good spirits. They are grateful for the outpouring of concern and support from friends, fans, and colleagues. The Osefo family and their legal team look forward to their day in court and respectfully ask for privacy as they focus on their family and the legal process ahead. It sounded calm, polished, controlled. But the internet was not buying it. Because while their lawyers asked for privacy, social media detectives were doing what they do best: digging. Within hours, users resurfaced old interviews, and what they found was almost comical. In one clip, Wendy sat on a talk show describing her burglary trauma while wearing the same ring she swore had been stolen. The audience at the time clapped, but now, people watched the clip again and saw what they missed before. The shaky hands. The over-explained answers. The fake sorrow. Her eyes darting, like someone performing a script that was already crumbling in her mind. And of course, Keiarna Stewart was right there in the background, watching it all unfold like poetic justice. The same Keiarna Wendy once dismissed as irrelevant, now basking in vindication. Online, Keiarna posted subtle jabs, quotes about karma, and cryptic emojis that the internet ate up like wildfire. Every post went viral. Every whisper turned into a roar. The entire world was watching Wendy's fall from grace, and somehow, that hurt more than the sentence itself. Because the punishment was not just legal. It was public humiliation. At the end of the day, this was never about a burglary. It was about obsession. Ego. The hunger to be seen as perfect, even when everything was falling apart behind closed doors. And maybe, that is the real tragedy. Not the fraud. Not the trial. But the slow, painful collapse of a woman who built her identity on being better than everyone else, only to become a cautionary tale for them all. But hold on, before everything hit the fan, before the mugshots and the headlines, this story had already been brewing behind closed doors. It did not just explode overnight, it simmered, like quiet thunder waiting to strike. Neighbors started noticing little things. Lights flickering at strange hours. Packages arriving late into the night. Cars pulling up and leaving without anyone ever stepping out. It all seemed harmless at first. After all, Wendy and Edward were the kind of couple people admired. They were the picture of class, hosting charity events, showing up to community galas, always smiling for the cameras. But sometimes, the most beautiful pictures hide the darkest cracks. Behind that polished exterior, something was off. When news broke that Dr. Wendy O, was accused of faking a burglary, people were not just shocked. They were betrayed. Because this was not just any influencer scandal. This was a woman who had built her empire on intelligence, integrity, and hard work, now accused of fabricating her own downfall. According to police reports, Wendy claimed nearly $200,000 in jewelry and luxury goods had been stolen from her Maryland mansion. But when detectives pulled surveillance footage from nearby homes, the whole story began to crumble. No signs of forced entry. No broken windows. No alarms triggered. Nothing. Instead, what the cameras did capture was far stranger: Wendy herself, late at night, moving boxes from her house to her car. She said she was storing valuables for safekeeping. Investigators said it looked more like she was hiding evidence. And then came the receipts, literally. Detectives uncovered pawn shop records showing that several of the stolen items had already been sold weeks before the alleged break-in. The same luxury bracelets, the same handbags, all traced back to Wendy's name. At that point, confusion turned into suspicion, and suspicion turned into a full-blown criminal investigation. The motive? Simple. Desperation dressed up as glamour. Behind the filters and luxury vacations, Wendy's financial world was collapsing. Her business was bleeding money. The expensive private schools, the car leases, the designer clothes, all funded by credit cards and borrowed cash. She was living inside a house of mirrors, each reflection showing success while hiding debt. When people live for appearances, they will do anything, to keep the illusion alive. Meanwhile, her husband Edward played the part of the quiet partner, withdrawn, subdued, maybe even guilty. Insiders say he tried to talk her out of it, that he begged her to tell the truth before it was too late. But by the time he found the courage, the police were already on her doorstep. And that is what makes this story so tragic. It is not just about crime. It is about two people who once promised each other forever, now trapped in a web of lies they built together. And if you think the media showed mercy, think again. Social media turned this investigation into a circus. Twitter threads were filled with frame-by-frame analyses of Wendy's interviews. People slowed down her videos, dissecting her tone, claiming they could hear guilt in her voice. TikTok detectives started digging into her financial history, pulling public records, charity filings, even alleged unpaid taxes. Facts no longer mattered, the drama did. The court of public opinion had already decided she was guilty. And then, of course, came Keiarna Stewart. The same Keiarna Wendy once mocked on national TV for being messy and irrelevant. Oh, how the tables turned. The internet watched as Keiarna went live with the confidence of a woman who knew karma had clocked in for overtime. Her voice was calm, but every word dripped with poetic justice. It is always the ones who preach the loudest about integrity, Keiarna said, who end up hiding the biggest secrets. I don't take joy in seeing another woman fall, but maybe next time, she'll think twice before questioning someone else's character. And that was it, the internet exploded. Half of social media applauded Keiarna for speaking her truth. The other half accused her of being petty, saying she was milking someone else's downfall. But either way, she owned the spotlight. For the first time in years, Keiarna's name was trending, not because of drama, but because she was right. Meanwhile, Wendy's picture-perfect life was falling apart, one secret at a time. Insiders revealed that she had been struggling to maintain the image of success for months. Loans under Edward's name. Overdue credit cards. Silent arguments about money. Even rumors that she had borrowed cash from friends and never paid it back. It was a domino effect, one lie leading to another, until the entire illusion collapsed. And here is the haunting truth, Wendy's story is not unique. It is a mirror of modern obsession, the need to look perfect, to live a life that photographs beautifully even if it is falling apart behind the scenes. People say, fake it till you make it, but Wendy faked it until it broke her. Because sometimes, the price of perfection is everything you have left. The irony is painful, because maybe, just maybe, this was never about greed at all. Maybe it was about fear. The fear of losing status. The fear of fading out of relevance.